Arrows, I'm Kashan and you are watching The Book Archer. So in 2020, I discovered a lot of new genres that I normally don't read that I have really been enjoying. So I wanted to do a video talking about all of the genres that I am currently loving and that I will probably continue to read. Let's go ahead and get started. If you're new to my channel, then you don't know that my default genre is fantasy. I love anything fantasy, especially YA fantasy. I read a lot of it and I'm starting to get more into adult fantasy, so we'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. That is always a genre that I am loving. Just in case you didn't know that, I wanted to make sure that I let you know. The first genre that I have really been loving and really getting into is mystery. A lot of y'all have commented and noticed that I have been picking up more mystery books, and that is all thanks to the Truly Devious series by Maureen Johnson. I started this trilogy last year on a whim. I was completely enthralled with the cold case mystery that took place in this series. It's a 1930s cold case, but the series takes place during present day at this boarding school, and the mystery has to do with the founder of the boarding school's wife and daughter. I just thought it was full of atmosphere and I was constantly wanting to know what was going on with that part of the story. And after enjoying that so much, it inclined me to pick up other mysteries, but that was really what the catapult to really helping me want to dive more into that genre. But I think the things I really like in mystery are like cozy mysteries, whodunit style mysteries, and cold cases. So after I picked up the Truly Devious trilogy, I also read The Guest List, which I really enjoyed, and that is an adult mystery that I read over the summer that you guys recommended to me, and that ended up being a really great read. And then I read my first Agatha Christie book, which was The Murder on the Orient Express, which everybody knows about, but I was just really shocked about how much I enjoyed that. And now I do plan on reading even more books by Agatha Christie. I think that I am actually starting to lean more towards adult mystery or mystery from like the golden age of mystery. So if y'all have any suggestions on mysteries, let your girl know. The next genre that I think I've always loved and just did not realize how much I love this genre before is historical fantasy. Y'all, I completed 2 historical fantasy trilogies this year and I loved both of them. So I finished 2, but I'm also in the middle of another series. I like ones that take place during the 1800s, the early 1900s, so like 1905, the 1920s, and especially Victorian era fantasy. That is like top tier for me. I don't know what it is about that. I feel like it's the mixture of the time period and the fantasy elements, because I'm not naturally a historical fiction reader. A lot of times when I'm reading historical fiction, I get bored. Although I find the historical elements interesting and educational, I need a little bit more from the story. So when you add in the fantasy elements, it just takes my reading experience to the next level, because there's always something to captivate me. So I'm either captivated by what's going on in the time period and how the author has woven that in, or I'm captivated by the fantastical elements. I forgot to mention that the series that I picked up this year that were historical fantasy, the first one was the Lady Helen trilogy by Alison Goodman. This is the one that really helped me realize that I love Victorian era fantasy. This entire trilogy was phenomenal and I definitely think it's slept on. The first book is a much slower than the first 2, so it takes a while to get into it, but once you get into it, it is so worth it. This was a great series finale as well, and I just love it when I read a whole trilogy and the last book does not let me down. The other one that I really loved was the Something Strange and Deadly trilogy, which is the older trilogy. And then I'm also reading the Last Magicians trilogy, just a whole bunch of them. Those were the books that really got me to thinking this is a genre that I'm obsessed with. Next up is middle grade. I never thought that I would be a middle grade reader. For a long time, I just kept thinking like I'm extra grown. The fact that I even read like YA and can't relate to these characters is as far as I'm willing to stretch it. So I was completely convinced that I would not be interested in middle grade. There are 2 things that really got me into wanting to check out middle grade. The first one is I noticed that a lot of people that read adult fantasy books read middle grade books. Like some of them don't read YA, but they'll read adult fantasy and they'll read middle grade. For the longest time I couldn't figure out why that was until I was watching somebody's video and they were basically talking about how middle grade has all of the amazing things that you love in YA fantasy without all of the stuff that annoys you if you're not in that age demographic. Some of the character romances, the characters just making poor decisions. The middle grade series more so focus on lessons that they want the middle grade audience to learn, different themes that you get to see that you don't necessarily always see when it comes to YA books. That is what really drew me in. That, and of course, The Forgotten Girl by India Hill Brown. A lot of y'all have read this book, already know about this book, but this is a middle grade book that my best friend published in 2019. Pretty sure this came out November 2019. Before I read this, I was thinking to myself like, dang, I don't really have a gauge to judge the quality of this because I haven't read any other middle grade books in years. When I first picked this up, I was like, okay, I really need to start reading some of the middle grade books. And I often get middle grade books from Y'all Fest in November, and I got The Only Black Girls in Town. I read this in February, and y'all, this was so freaking good. I love this. This was such an enjoyable read. I have really been sleeping on the middle grade genre. So I've just been enjoying that genre as a whole. I can't wait to pick up some more series in it. I want to read all of the books from the Rick Riordan imprint. I really want to start Keepers of the Lost City as well as the Morgan Crow series. Those have really caught my eye. If y'all have any middle grade recommendations, leave them in the comment section down below. The next genre that has taken over my little heart in the last year or two is adult romance. I never ever thought that I would be an adult romance reader, and I know that its popularity is increasing across the BookTube platform. However, that still didn't make me inclined or interested to want to pick it up, to want to read it. I just never thought that I would enjoy it. However, last year I got sent an arc of Get a Life Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert, and this was such a fun book to read. Ever since then, I have changed my tune on adult romance. First of all, adult romance is so readable. Adult romance is like the perfect palate cleanser in between me reading like fantasy books or heavy books or anything like that, or if I don't know what I'm in the mood for, you can just pick it up and fly through it. I can't name a single adult romance that I haven't read in one sitting or in one day. They're just that easy to get through. And not only that, but I definitely enjoy these characters a lot more. I find myself relating to these characters a lot more. I find myself relating a lot more to the themes, and on top of that, it's fun. It gives you like the fuzzy feelings. 90% of the adult romance that I read are dual POVs, and I really like stories that are dual POVs. So I really enjoyed that. I definitely will be picking up some more in 2021. I have marked a couple already new releases that I am like waiting to get my hands on. Finally, the last genre that I'm like, I like it, I see it, I want it, I got it, and that is adult fantasy. I've been reading YA fantasy for years and years and years, and for the longest I really wasn't interested in adult fantasy because I just felt like all of the general stories seemed very similar to me. I never felt like that was a genre where I was going to be reading from regularly, but all of these other amazing series have been popping up all over the place. I started Rage of Dragons a couple of months ago, which I still need to finish. I was just like already floored from the first 10% of the book that I read. I was really enjoying it. That is a very high priority for me to get through some of these adult fantasy books in 2021. I'm so excited. I'm just so ready to be immersed in all of these new fantastical worlds and just to expand my love of fantasy to another demographic. Those are all the genres that I'm currently loving. Are there any new genres that you've gotten into? Let me know below. What are you currently loving and reading, and what is something that you've tried out that has really surprised you? Also, what's another genre or subgenre that you think that I would really like, that I am missing out on, that you think that I should try? Let me know in the comment section. Thank you for tuning into this video. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at The Book Archer, and I will see y'all in my next video.